Hi, welcome to Coding Club for October 14th. Today we've got, let's see, what do we have here? Let's open this page up. This is where we left off. We have cards. We have 4 cards that you can drag around the screen. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to make it so when you click on a card, it becomes the top card, rather than being dragged underneath cards. That's going to be one of our steps. A second thing we're going to do is we're going to, instead of having the cards created in our HTML, we're going to write JavaScript that will create the card. And the third thing we're going to do is we are going to, after we build the deck, we're going to be able to shuffle the deck. And we'll accomplish all those goals pretty quickly, I believe. So let's see, where do we start? I think I'm going to do the dragging where you pick up the card and it's on top of all the other cards. That will be our first thing. And we're going to use something called z-index. And let me just come here, go to our JavaScript. And so when we have a drag mouse down, it's actually going to be a pretty easy thing to do, where you're going to just have to change our z-index. So give me 1 second. So it would be somewhere in this file, we're going to say ELMNT. So that's the item that's being dragged, and that gets passed into our function. We're going to say the style of that element dot z-index is going to equal, we'll say, top index. And top index we have to create, we're going to create that as a global variable. I'm going to set that to like 100. We could make it a little smaller if we wanted to, but for now it doesn't really matter. We're going to change it a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 to top index so that the next card we grab will be higher up. So if we come back to our example, if you see now when I drag cards, it puts the card I'm dragging on top. Another thing I'd like to do, I'd like to make the card get a little bigger so it has the illusion of being picked up. And I'm going to do it in a CSS. And that we can just do, it's very simple. We can say card.active. So when you click on something, it becomes active. And so we're going to change our CSS to account for that. And we're going to say transform. And we're going to scale it like 10%. So 1.1 times bigger. Let's see if this works. So now when you pick up the card is kind of like picked up and then placed down. So it was 2 lines of code and a little bit and one thing on CSS to pick up the card, and you can flip it. You can move it around. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our cards instead of in this HTML. We're going to come out here, we're going to delete all these, and what we're going to do is we're going to comment. I'm just going to grab this card here. It doesn't matter which one it is, but this is our structure. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to make a new div tag. I'm going to say the class, let's say the ID is a deck. And so in this div tag is going to be where we create our cards. So I'm going to come over to card.js. I'm going to write a new function called create card. And And in create card, we're going to need text and an image. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to say return, and then I'm going to put in quotes, and I'm just going to paste that card in. Now I'm going to get rid of the double quotes just because it will be a little easier to work with. And HTML and CSS, it's not going to care, but the JavaScript does care. I could do other things, but this is just simple enough to work through. And now what we've got to do is, it's going to get a little messy. I'm going to put all of this on this single line. So really, when we say create card, we're just gonna return this item, and then when we are calling drag element, we can have another function called create deck. And I'm just going to say for var I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. And then I'm just going to call create card. And right now I can just put in anything, text, comma, image. I'm just going to leave those blank. And that's going to create our card. And I'm going to say var text equals nothing. And then I'm going to say text plus equals create card, and that's going to return this. And then I'm going to say I need to get element by ID. Let me just what is it? It's document.get element by ID, and we're going to get the deck. I'm going to say the inner HTML. It's going to equal our text. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create the deck, and I want to create the deck as the first thing we do. We want to have all of our cards. We're going to test, and this should just create 10 cards. They should all look the same. And we've got 10 cards here. Now what I'd like to do is, instead of making 10 blank cards, I'd like to make 10 cards that we would like to assign. So in this create card, where it says image heart JPEG, I'm going to just take that out. I'm going to say IMG, but I'm going to put a closing quote. We're going to add the IMG, and we're going to open it, open quote. So what that's doing is that's saying, okay, whatever's being passed in here is going to be the image. And then we want to have the text, which is right here. We're going to put plus our text. So then we can make different cards. Now it matters when we're creating our deck. We can't just create card blank blank. We want to create a card with stuff in it. And I'm going to make 2 arrays. One is going to be suits, and It's going to be an array of just paths to our suits. And we're going to have 4 suits because we have 4 suits in our graphic file. I don't want them all to be heart. One's going to be heart, one's going to be club. So actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to order it the same way that a new deck of cards would be ordered. Heart, diamond, and spade. And these are actually the values of cards. Spades are considered worth more than clubs in most games. And then I'm going to say var card text, and that's going to equal, I'm going to have that equal all of the cards in the deck, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. And I'll just change the numbers here. And now, instead of creating blank cards, I'm going to say for I equals 0, I is less than suits.length. And then I'm going to have inside here for var j equals 0, j is less than suits.card text. J++, and then we're going to do text plus equals create card, and create card, the first element is the text, so I'm going to say card text J, and then the suits would be suits I. And so now when we come here and we hit the refresh button, oh, I did something wrong, so let's just hit F12, see what it looks like it's breaking. Oh, it's not giving me anything it's breaking, so let's come back to the JavaScript. So text, create card, text, card text J. Oh, we don't want suits length. We want this to be card text length. I don't think that's the error, but card text J. Oh, we'll see. I don't think that's the error. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do console.log text just to see what's possibly going on. And it looks like nothing is printed for our text. So what's happening here? For I equals 0, I is less than suits length, I++. J equals 0, J is less than, card text.length. Those little typos will get you. And so now we have all of our spades are on top. The diamonds should come after that. And this is all being done programmatically. We didn't have to put this in our HTML. After diamonds, it's going to be hearts, and so on and so on. You can flip them over, you can pick them up, put them wherever you want. It's looking good. So now we are programmatically creating our deck. Next thing we want to do is we want to shuffle our deck. So we're going to make another function called shuffle deck. And I'm going to say we're going to make a, let's see, close this here. We're going to go through all of our cards and we're going to assign them just a value 0 to however many cards are. In a standard deck, that'd be 0 to 51. So I'm going to say that top index, we're going to set that to 0. And we're going to loop through. I'm going to say for var I equals 0. I is less than, and we have this array called elements, and elements is our document.getElements. So I is less than elements length. And do I plus plus. And so that's going to loop through all of our cards, and then we just want to set the z index to equal I. So we're going to say elements I dot styles, or sorry, dot style dot z index. That's going to equal I. And then at the end, we're going to actually, we don't need top index here. We can, here we're going to say top index equals I. And then we're going to go through and we're going to shuffle these cards. So we're going to shuffle the cards by just looping through for var I equals 0, I is less than, just you can make it a big number. I'm just going to make it elements.length times 10, I plus plus. So as the deck gets bigger, we'll do more swaps. And what we're just going to do, we're going to just take 2 cards and we're going to swap their position. We're going to do it again and again and again. We can make it times 1,000 or times 100. That's going to be what, 5,200 swaps. And that should be pretty swappable. So now what we want to do, we want to grab a card on the deck and another card on the deck and swap their z values. So we're going to say first card equals math.random. Now math.random returns a value between 0 and 1. So if we multiply that by element length, that will give us a number between 0 and however long our array is minus 1. Or actually not minus 1. It's going to, but when we will say math.floor, that will round our number down. And that's going to be our first card. So that will give us a number between 0 and however many cards we've got. We'll do the same thing for the second card. Same exact thing. If you grab the same card, then you'll just swap it with itself. It's not going to hurt. That won't happen. Well, it will happen every shuffle, but and then we're going to just have a temporary spot. And we're going to say temp equals elements dot first card, or elements I dot style dot z index. And then I'm going to say elements I, not I, sorry. Elements first card z index. Then we're going to say the first card z index is going to equal the second card's z index. And then we're going to have the second card's z index equal temp. And we're going to just do that over and over and over again, and we should have a pretty shuffled deck. So after we create our deck, we will shuffle the deck. We're going to shuffle the deck after we deal with that stuff, these variables. So I hit refresh, and now we have the 9, and so we can see that these cards are in a random order, so they've been shuffled. I think that's all. What I'm going to do one more thing. I want to get rid of this pink border at this point. So I'm just going to go to the CSS to the card where it has a background color pink. I'm going to just make that transparent. And so right here we have a card that looks like that. I also, actually, you know what? I'm going to do one other thing in the CSS. The back, I want the, I'm just going to test this. If it doesn't work right away, I'll save it for another lesson. But I think if I make the height and width 100%, I really didn't. Oh, I have padding. Yeah, I'll just do this as well. So the padding is 2 pixels. So the backdrop, I'm going to say the padding, I think I have to make it -2 pixels to offset the 2 pixels. And now the card it's still not taking up as much space as I want, but I'd like it to be covering the other cards. I'll deal with that next time. So thank you for coming today, and we'll continue on the next one.